This episode was taped in the Money News Network studio, brought to you by U.S. Bank.
I'm Nicole Lapin, the only financial expert you don't need a dictionary to understand. It's time for some money rehab. Kevin O'Leary, welcome to Money Rehab.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for wearing pants.
Yeah, I thought I was going to wear some pajamas, but out of respect to our first time together, I thought I'd wear some pants.
Thank you so much. I feel like the richer you are, though, the less you care.
I don't know if that's the case. It's really coming out of the pandemic when I started to realize, as you well know, on television, it's the top half that's on camera. So why are you burdening yourself with pants when you don't need them? And that's what I call pandemic chic. And I think I've really started something now because I simply never wear them unless, it's something like this where I really want to make an impression.
Thank you. I'm honored. So thank you so much for coming right before the Emmys. I really appreciate your time. And it made me think about how valuable time is. It's our most valuable asset.
Yeah.
Do you think about your billable hours?
Well, I don't think of them as billable. The whole concept of entrepreneurship is you work a tremendous amount of time during your journey, because it's never a destination. It's not about the greed of money, and I've said this countless times. You have to be immensely passionate to work that hard. You must love what you're doing. And out of that work, one day you find yourself free. You have achieved the American dream. You have financial freedom, but not because you were greedy for money. It just arrived because you built something of great value. And then you go into this new phase where you decide how to use your time. So I only do things I want to do because I don't have to do anything. And so I want to be here today. I was really looking forward to this. I haven't done your podcast before. I've heard all about it. My team said these guys are amazing. So here I am. And you are. And so let's use our time wisely. But my point is, if you can achieve that in your life, you will even want to work more, because you get to do the things that really matter to you anywhere in the world. And that makes life intriguing, I must say.
So let's use our time wisely.
Yeah.
Just dig into it.
Yeah.
Mama Wonderful, I
Yeah.
love her breakdown of investing. Do you use that portfolio of 20% of every paycheck invested, no more than 5% in a single stock or bond, no more than 20% in a sector?
Yeah, she taught me that when I was still a teenager because she was doing that her whole life. And nobody in our family knew this until she passed away. And I'm the older brother, so the executor called me and said, look, your mother died a very wealthy woman. You got to get down here. I said, no, she didn't. We're middle class. She was married twice. She really wanted to fiercely be independent, financially independent. Her second marriage lasted a very long time. They were very happy. But she wanted her own money always. She never wanted a man, any man, to tell her what to do. And I think that's part of her background. She was Lebanese. Lebanese women are the whole society is matriarchal, very matriarchal, because that's just how it is in Lebanon. And that's how I grew up I'm half Lebanese, half Irish. And so on Sundays, the women would prepare the meal, the grandmother usually, and if you didn't show up, you went to hell. So that's how they kept the family together. It was very important. But the women there ran the show. They just did. They ran the family. And so she got into that mode early in her life, and she learned diversification herself. She was not a stock analyst. Very simple rule. No more than 5% in any one stock or bond, no more than 20% in any one sector. And she had a lot of bonds. They paid 7% in those days, and pretty well all the S&P 500 stocks that paid dividends, because she lived off the divs and the interest off the bonds for 52 years. I saw that portfolio. No one beat it. Nobody. I mean, it was really incredible. And so it changed my life forever.
And do you use that?
I do. I do. The core, I built a whole ETF company around Georgette's philosophy called O-Shares, and Alps bought it. It was a very successful business. It was really boring, and that's what worked. Everything was so boring about it. But even my kids use it now. Because I always say to them, why don't you buy OUSA? That's our big that's a subset of the S&P 500, only the good companies that have good balance sheets and pay distributions every month. And why don't you try and beat it? Like put it in your, they have their own apps online, and then just beat it every year. See if you can beat it by picking stocks. They get their asses kicked. I mean, I love ETFs because you don't sit around listening to tips and rumors and you're spending all day stock picking. I'd still do that for fun, but that's not where the big money is. It's in indexes, and that's how it works.
Boring. Love it.
Boring. Every month, a check.
Yeah, you want to have a fun, sexy time? Go to the Emmys.
That's right.
Go buy some watches.
That's
Get
right.
Cool
I know how to do that.
I saw that you had $5 million in T-bills.
I tell people a minimum of 1.5 million by the time you're 65. That's the minimum you have to have saved up. You can actually survive off that for the rest of your life if you have $1.5 million, in a very conservative portfolio.
Living off 4%.
3.8, 4.1, that's kind of where we're going. And I don't think we're going to get a lot of rate cuts like people think. There's a lot of inflation in the system right now that's still up at 3. But anyways, you have to have a strategy in your mid to late 20s on how I'm going to get to $1.5 million with no debt. That means pay your mortgage off, end up with $1.5 million. And of course, you have the benefit of compound interest and market cap going up on the market over 20, 30 years, which it generally does, 8 to 10% a year. If you're an entrepreneur and you're taking a lot of risk, you'll want to get $5 million in T-bills sitting in an account. That is what I call, and excuse my French, the fuck you money. That gives you the power to do whatever you want and, take care of catastrophic outcomes like illness and everything else. That protects you. And you have to have the discipline to park that. You get to look at it every day, and every month you get a big check off it. And leave it alone, don't mess with it, and start all over again. Once you have that nest egg, for an entrepreneur, that's a really good nest egg, because as an entrepreneur, sometimes you don't get paid for 2 years. You're starting a new thing, you've got to keep your salary low, sweat equity. But you got that check every month saying, oh, what's that? That's my distribution from my $5 million. Not everyone can get there, but if you get your first pass, take 5 and just put it into T-bills. Really boringo.
What is that kicking off every month?
Right now I've converted it into half of it is in stable coins yielding 4.1%. I'm pretty comfortable with crypto now. And I like that we passed the Genius Bill, so now that's backed by 92-day duration fixed income products, very high quality, like T-bills. You can get a slightly higher yield off that. A lot of people are still nervous about crypto, but you got to learn about it. I've gone through a real journey with it, so I'm very comfortable with it now. I went through the cowboy phase, all the guys that went to jail phase, the FTX phase, the Binance guy in jail phase, all that stuff. And I came out the other end alive because I just was very careful. And what I've learned now, it's a great tool. So that $5 million is half in T-bills, half in stable coins.
If you're worried about inflation, what about some tips?
I'm not a big tip fan. I'd rather use other products like gold and Bitcoin. That's my hedge against inflation. And lately, I've got into alternatives because I did a lot of research on alternatives. And the one that really blew me away, collectible sports cards. Who knew? I'm the guy that, along with my business partners, just paid $12.932 million for a dual logo man, the highest price ever paid. And people say to me, "What, are you crazy? You just paid, $12.9 million for a piece of cardboard?" And I told them this story years ago. I was invited to the matriarch of Tetra Pak. She's Swedish. That's the wealthiest family in the world in terms of a private company. Tetra Pak is still private. All the packaging is made by Tetra Pak. They're all over the world. I was invited to a very formal lunch in her castle. It was really quite something. And she was just a wonderful woman, so down to earth. Halfway through the meal, drinking some really good white wine. I'm talking good white wine. I said, "I'd like to go to the men's room, the bathroom." She said, "Sure, just walk out, take a right. It's right there." And I walk in. And above the sink, I look at it. It was a Picasso.
In the bathroom.
An original oil Picasso.
Casual.
And I know what a Picasso looks like. And it was 4 inches from my nose. Instead of the mirror, it was a Picasso. I walked out and I said to her, "Bibbs, there's a Picasso in the toilet." She says, "Oh, yeah. My husband was a friend of Pablo. And Pablo couldn't afford his rent, so he would just buy a painting every week from him. They're all over the house. We got 40 Picassos." I said, "You must be kidding me. what did you pay for those things? She said, I don't know, maybe back then 1,000 francs or 500 francs, whatever it took for his girlfriend and him to pay their rent. So imagine if you had bought a Picasso from Picasso in the mid 50s or late 50s for 500 French francs. That thing's worth 160 million bucks now. So
Crazy.
When people tell me, oh, you bought a Pollock, you have a Chagall, you've got a Warhol. Yes, because those assets, if you get the right ones, and I'll draw the analogy to modern art or contemporary art, you need the piece uniques. You're not going to get the capital appreciation. You need that original Picasso oil or the original oil Warhol or the original Pollock. Even though you paid $10 million for it, it's going to be worth $25 million 10 years later. That's an alternative asset that really fights inflation. That's why I'm doing this.
Listen, a girl can dream. But if we bring it back to earth and, somebody who could get into alts more affordably, the Labubu stuff.
I have a Labubu. It's here with me.
Can I see it?
I'm proud to have this Labubu. Let's get it out here. This is my little man purse. And
your
this is
MERS?
my Louis Vuitton collectible Labubu. Everybody wants my Labubu. Everybody. Stop me on the street all the time saying, is that a Louis Vuitton Labubu? I said, yes, it is.
How much is it worth?
I think you could buy these for $29 if you could find one. The highest I've been offered is $3,800 for it. But I'm not selling it. I'm not selling it. There was an Asian woman with a daughter it was her birthday, and she just said, look, you've got to sell me the Labubu. I said, can't do it. This Labubu and I have a personal relationship.
Kevin, there's a price for everything.
No, I know, but the point is it gives you an idea about collectibles. Now, this could be more faddish, if you remember Beanie Babies, but I'm pretty convinced that looking at 11 years of data for trading cards that I'm in a good place. But I didn't stop there. The data from Walmart and Target, they're talking about $1 billion in sales this year in cards. And so something's happening with the new generation about these things. And that to me is a great alternative. But what I'm going to do in that space is do the Georgette strategy. I'm going to index. I've quietly been amassing a massive portfolio of cards, and they're all really rare. I mean, sort of prices are $600K to $1.7 million. So I've got way more than that dual logo. I will bring them out at some point, and now I'm indexed. Now I've got tremendous diversification, and I think that portfolio is going to perform very, very well.
So how much for the Labubu?
Not selling.
$1 million.
I wouldn't sell my Labubu for $1 million. I'm not kidding, because that Labubu,
$10 million.
You're making this Labubu famous right now.
I'm
this
sure.
Labubu.
Someone said, Kevin, here's $10 million. Can I have your Labubu?
No,
you would say no.
No, wouldn't do it.
20.
No.
50. Not for $50 million. Then why is there not a
I don't want to
security guard
sound
here?
arrogant. I don't need $50 million. I want to keep my Labubu. Okay, so I'm keeping it because this Labubu actually was on my Shark Tank seat. It's the only Labubu in the world.
So this Labubu is priceless.
It is to me. I mean, that's, there's some things that I would sell. It's not my Labubu and none of my watches. I would never sell any of my watches. My watches are so unique, most of them, made by passionate watchmakers that start their life watchmaking at 14 years old. And the only way they're going to make you a piece unique, that means one of a kind with red elements for me, is they trust you as an investor and as a collector even more than an investor. Because if you don't respect the horology and the making of the piece and you flip it to profit, you're banned by the whole community. I've never done that.
So you got caught up in a bunch of FTX shenanigans.
Yes.
You alluded to it, but now that experience has changed how you view crypto. So how much crypto of your overall net worth do you have?
I'm treating crypto the Georgette way, no more than 20%. So I'm at 19.5 right now. But let me tell you what I include in the package. I don't just buy the asset. I buy the infrastructure. That means the exchanges. So I own Robinhood, I own Coinbase, I own WonderFi up in Canada, which was just acquired by the guys at Robinhood. And so the great thing about an exchange in crypto, you make money regardless of the asset price or the volatility. You're doing an exchange, so it's trading, and you're getting a couple of bips for every trade. And so that's what I like about that. And the analogy I use for everybody to think about is 300 years ago, if you had the option in the gold rush, maybe 250 years ago, would you have rather owned the gene and the shovel and pick factories or taken risk on finding gold? The answer would be the shovels, the picks, and the genes, because everybody needed those. And if afterwards someone found gold, you could buy it from them at spot prices, which is what I do. But I like the infrastructure. So what I have in crypto and what I've learned through this experience, which was remarkable, I must admit, there are tens of thousands of tokens in crypto, but you only need 2 to capture 95% of the volatility of the entire crypto market.
For what, Bitcoin, Ethereum?
Bitcoin and Ethereum. So, and the great thing about those is, and I own a little stablecoin too. So the 3 that I own in bulk on the asset side is Bitcoin, ETH, and some stablecoin. Because you can buy watches with stablecoin now. It's a legitimate transfer asset for payment systems. So the great thing about owning ETH and Bitcoin together is you can stake and wrap and get yield. So now not only am I, got this chunk of crypto sitting at 19.5%, I get a check. Each month I get a stablecoin distribution. And that I just love, because I'm not worried about the price of Bitcoin tonight or tomorrow morning. I don't give a damn. I don't trade it. It's like my gold assets. It's very hard to figure out how to get any yield off gold. And I own the bullion and the GLD, which is an ETF. But this strategy with ETH and Bitcoin, yippee-yi-yo-ki-yay. I mean, I had to build a team to do it. It's not easy, but I'm doing it.
But the problem is that FTX was supposed to be that infrastructure too.
That didn't work out so well.
It did not.
But, what I found about that is, by the way, it looks like FTX will be the most successful bankruptcy in American history. People that had accounts there are being offered 140% of their holdings because they invested in a lot of assets like Solana and some AI companies in Alameda, which obviously went up in value through the bankruptcy process. So, look, it's unfortunate what happened. That caused me a lot of grief, and I got a lot of scrutiny for it. But I just found, again, from my mother, the lesson she said, just tell the truth and you'll never have to remember what you said. And so all through the Senate hearings and all that stuff and the scrutiny from Andrew Ross Sorkin on CNBC, he fried me like a chicken on there. I just told the truth, which ended up being the truth. And that's how it ended. I've testified multiple times in front of the Senate now on this thing. I showed them, I was the last guy to talk to Sam Bankman-Fried, how CZ, his frenemy, bankrupted him. And CZ ended up in jail too. He went to a federal prison. So those guys were beating each other up in nefarious ways, and they both paid a horrible price.
Have you talked to SBF since then? Or has he apologized to you?
I don't think I want an apology from him. I'm a big boy. This was a startup, a large one, but I wasn't the only investor. Some of the biggest, companies, financial services companies on earth were right beside me. We own stock, FTX International, and millions of dollars in our account. And he hired me as a paid spokesperson. He insisted, or at least we negotiated, that all of that payment came in crypto. It was sitting in the account when it got, stolen, basically. And so we're going through that process of cleaning all that up. Sam Bankman-Fried was a very interesting guy because he was out there on the spectrum. He was a genius, there's no question. Whether he understood what he did wrong or not, I mean, now he must. I also met his parents, who were very nice people. I feel very sorry for them. But in a way, it's those pioneers with arrows in their backs that created this incredible industry. Both he and CZ, the CEO and the founder of Binance, they are the ones that took the hit. And now that we're regulated, the upside's immense. It's just immense. And so I'm calling this to be the 12th sector of the S&P within 5 years, crypto.
So I'm trying to follow all of the sectors you're in. So 20% alts, 20% crypto.
19%. Well, the way I do it is this. I mark to market the portfolio every month with my financial team. We look at everything. I'm talking about the private equity deals, the venture deals, liquidity of the trust holdings and all that stuff. And I do a consolidated snapshot of the entire operating company. And if I see something out of kilter in terms of concentration, it's gotten over 20%, that sends a red light or bell off. The only sector that I let go north of 20% is real estate. It's at 31% right now, but it's always been a third for me, always.
So you only check your portfolio and your net worth once a month?
No, I mark to market every day at 4:30, but you can't do that with crypto. It's trading 24/7. So I have a dashboard. I look at it several times a day. The analogy I'd use is if you can't see your money every moment of the day and you don't know where it is, you're going to lose it. So luckily for people that are just starting out, there's all kinds of apps that you can use now on your phone, and my kids use them, that can consolidate every one of your bank accounts for you in a moment's notice. But you have to have a dashboard in your life of where am I sitting in this moment? And a lot of people don't have that, and that's how they get in trouble.
Do you like what you see?
Yeah, I like what I see. But this is what I do. I don't use debt. I do use debt in real estate, obviously, but I never let debt become more than 30% ever. Because if you let debt get past 50% and you get a 50% correction, you're wiped out.
Well, let's talk about real estate being a big part of your portfolio. You've said that the days of free money and low mortgage rates are over.
They are.
So what advice would you give to wannabe homebuyers right now?
You know, this is a great conversation to have with you because people forget for generations, an American mortgage was between 5.5 and 7.5. 5 generations. That's how long. And they somehow built America, and it worked out very, very well for them. And so when people are whining about not having a mortgage for 3.5%, I say, forget it. You're never going to get that again. That was an anomaly during a remarkable period when rates were going down for so long, but those days are over. And so back in the 50s, when you had a 7% mortgage, you bought a 1,500 square foot starter home with 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and you had your first kid in there, and you learned how to manage that mortgage because it was only at least less than a third of your free cash flow. You can't let a mortgage or your home consume more than a third of your free cash flow per month, or you are fucked. You'll go bankrupt. Again, excuse my French. But that is how much I feel about it. When I see people overbuying houses and they can't afford it even with 2 salaries, I know one of 2 things is going to happen. They're going to go bankrupt together or they're getting divorced. Because the number one reason for divorce is not infidelity. It's financial stress. And
maybe financial infidelity.
Yeah, that's right. One outspends the other. But people, never give up your financial identity. I've said this countless times. I have a company I invested in called Hello Prenup to help women get prenups. Even while you're in love, getting married, screw that, get a prenup. Because once real life hits, stuff happens. And so you've got to start thinking about when you're starting out and you're getting married, you're building a business together. I know it sounds callous, but it's not. You have to get money in that relationship to survive. And so that really matters. Women do something very bad. They give up their financial identity when they marry a guy. Why would you do that? You have to get your credit score back later after you're divorced 10 years later. That's insane. It's very hard to do. You keep your own accounts. You keep your own credit card, and he does the same, and you have a joint credit card that you contribute to each month together, and you decide which things you spend on together and which do you own yourself. And you have your own investments and all that stuff. Marriage is a wonderful thing, and you can build a family, but you never give up your identity, your financial identity, or bad things will happen to you.
You've said to your kids that you want them to have prenups and not blend their finances with their partners.
No, they know that. They know that
mine,
already.
And ours.
I don't even give them money. I mean, I have a different philosophy. My mother taught me that entitlement is a curse. It is a curse, an absolute curse. You may not agree with me on this topic, but when I graduated, my mother came to my graduation and said, I have good news and bad news. I'm here to celebrate your graduation, but there's no more checks. And she said, the dead bird under the nest never learns how to fly. And I said, Mom, what the hell does that mean? She said, I'm done. I'm not paying you anymore. Because she was helping me right through college and everything. And, that's because she had that portfolio we talked about earlier. I mean, she put my brother and I right through college. Who knew? I mean, that was, but then she said, I'm done. You have to go figure it out on your own. She felt that if you de-risked somebody financially at a time in their life when they're making hard decisions about what they're going to do with their life, you cursed them. And you must know at least a few screwed up rich kids. I do. Sure. And I know exactly what happened to them. They are totally screwed up. They've been de-risked. Their parents give them money every month, and they're 40 years old. They haven't done anything because they didn't have to. That's a curse. What a miserable waste of a life. And so after my big, my first liquidity event, I went across the river in Boston and I set up a generational skipping trust. It's a very simple metric. It does not provide to anybody anything after they finish education. But from birth to last day of education, full free ride. Full free ride. Everything paid for, even out of wedlock after I'm gone. But if you drop out of school or you don't make it to college, you're cut off. I remember my son was doing really poorly in high school. Came home one day in Boston. We were living in Chestnut Hill, and he said, look, my friend has a trust. Tell me how mine works. I said, Mom and I are going out for a movie. If we get run over by a bus, you don't have to worry. This trust is going to pay till you finish high school. But it doesn't look like with your marks you're going to ever make it to college. He said, yeah, but I don't have to worry about it. I got a trust. I said, no. This trust stops paying after you finish your education. If you only make it through high school, I'm dead and you're broke. The horror in his eyes when he figured that out. However, it motivated him to get off his ass and use the next 3 years to milk that trust to get into college, get his marks up, and he did it, became an engineer, worked for Tesla, got one of the Tesla directors to write him a letter when he applied to Harvard, got in, MIT too. That's where he is right now.
I just got married last year.
Congrats. I hope you've kept your financial identity.
For sure.
Do you have a prenup?
Yes, of course. And think about all of our listeners who do not fall in the same trap that you mentioned, that women lose their financial identity. Not our ladies, but you and your wife have been married since 1990, right? So you have some years on me.
No,
you have
definitely.
34 years on me. You guys separated, though, for 2 years.
I let celebrity get in the way of my family, which, that's one of the downsides of this. But my daughter, son, said, this is ridiculous. You got to come back. And I'm so glad they did. And we worked it out. And it's changed our, I look at it, I would say something for men who are thinking of doing this. You will never have the same relationship with your kids if you separate from your family for a period of time. You can repair it, but it'll never be the same. Because that's just the way it is. And I've come to realize that, but I'm proud to be back in the family unit. I'm very focused on making it work, and I do, and I've been that way for many, many years. The grass always looks greener on the other side. It always does. And I know that with certainty because so many of my friends are now going into their third and fourth marriages to women that are as much as 35 years younger than them. It's stupid. But it's not me, it's them. I say to them, when I'm going to their fifth wedding or whatever it is, maybe it's you. It's not them. Maybe it's you. You're the reason that you're getting married for the fourth or fifth time. It's on you. And why don't you ask yourself, why do I need to marry? Like at this point, if you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, and you've got kids, why don't you just date? Because you're really bad at marriage. And you're just geometrically decreasing your wealth every turn. Even if you have a prenup, it's going to cost you a fortune to get married.
Well, you have a prenup.
It doesn't matter anymore.
It's still expensive.
The prenup for my wife and I, once you have children, prenups are pretty weak. And, once you have a family, it's great to have them. The period you want a prenup for is that first 3 to 5 years, because that's when the majority of partnerships break up. And often there's no child. The minute there's a child, it gets messy.
So getting back together with your wife, was money a factor because divorce is expensive?
No, the amazing thing was money has never mattered to my wife because we couldn't even afford pizza at our wedding. We actually served pizza at our wedding. We had no money, zero. I was in the middle of my first startup. We had a party at our house. Like it was fun, but we had no dough. zero. And so she was with me, and she was a fantastic mother because I could have never done what I did. I worked so hard the first 10 years. And as the learning company grew, it was in 52 countries. I was on the road all the time. I barely made it back for weekends. So she raised the kids. And slowly but surely, things started to move. And, we started to make money, and it was great. But she still doesn't give a shit about it. We don't need for anything. And she certainly doesn't think about it. It's quite remarkable. You're very lucky to have a wife like that, actually. She doesn't outspend me. I have to go buy her stuff, like lately she's been stealing my watches. So I decided to buy her own watches, which has been very good for me because she's not stealing mine anymore. But it's sort of, that's great. That's not what drives her. What drives her is family values, she's so proud of our kids and Trevor and the whole college thing. That's a good place to be in. That's the way I look at it.
What would you tell Taylor and Travis to put in their prenup?
Well, they're under such pressure as celebrities. She's so much wealthier than he is. Celebrity, as it did to me, causes tremendous stress in relationships, and particularly two celebrities. I mean, he's a celebrity on his own, but musicians tend to have a longer career than football players, so he's got to figure out his transition. She'll always be a bigger star than him, and that's something you're going into the deal knowing. But I think if they are successful, getting a family going, and they have a reason to support each other that way, I mean, everybody's second guessing what these two are going to do. Look, she's going to need more than a prenup. I mean, she's going to have to set up structural trusts that he'll never get access to. So, that's just the way it's going to be. I think she's well over $1 billion liquid. So he's just going to have to deal with that.
Well, she said no to FTX, right? So she's got some smart people around her.
That, unfortunately, is not true.
Oh, tell me
She
more.
did sign the contract. Sorry to tell you that. It went bankrupt before she executed on it. There's not a lot about FTX I don't know. But her people spun a hell of a story. I don't blame them for doing it. But sorry, she signed it.
So she signed the deal, then they went bankrupt, so she didn't actually appear.
Yeah, I'm pre-programmed to tell the truth. I'm telling you the truth. That's what happened. So, yep, that's what happened. But no, she's not perfect. I'm not sure she read it. Her people probably did. But she was going to be a paid spokesperson for FTX, and she signed the contract, and they never concluded it because they had no cash. They went bankrupt.
Okay, let's go back to an allocation. So we talked about your allocation, 20% crypto so far. I'm trying to keep tabs. 31% real estate.
Yes.
What is your net worth? I'll do the math.
I never disclose my net worth. You know why? And this is again from my mother, and it's great advice. She's a big believer in karma. If you brag about money, one day you won't have any. That scares the shit out of me. You can go online and see all the speculation and all that stuff, but I've never disclosed my net worth, and very few people actually get access to that information. I don't find it useful to stick that out there, and I think bad karma too. I'm not boasting about money, but I'm happy to talk about individual assets. The cards are now at just over 20 million in a holdco with 3 partners. So I'm a third of 20, including that car we just bought. And as we speak, we are acquiring 2 really remarkable pieces in Osaka, Japan. One of my partners is legendary in the hobby, as it's called. His name is Shine. Matt Allen is his birth name. He is the number 1 collector on earth. He is the number 1 guy that understands every card out there of value. And the reason I did this is 2 reasons. I didn't want to compete with him in buying that dual logo, the Kobe and Jordan, because Shine thought it would go between 5 and 15 million, and he was right, almost to the penny. It was right in the middle, 12.9 million. By having him, when working together, we're not competing against each other, and we're now partners in this. But I've realized if someone said to me, go build an index of watches, I want to invest $5 million in watches, I know how to do that because I've been collecting watches for 40 years. I know every watchmaker. I know every watch brand. I know every piece. I know every model. I know every caliber. I know every crystal. I know it all. I don't know that about collecting sports cards. He does. So I needed to find that guy, just like someone would have to find me in watches. And I have that guy. And now he's the guy in Osaka. And so, every day we're strategizing on what's the next card, etc. And I think one day we will, because, I never saw anything happen like this when we bought that card. It's only been a couple of weeks. My DMs from kids all around America and around the world, they're going crazy to see that card. These are, father-son relationships that are in the hobby. I had no idea how big this is. You talk to 10 people, 5 of them have been collecting cards since they were 7 years old. This card is the absolute El Supremo card of all cards. It's the dual logo with the gold logo. And there's only one in the world. So I've been thinking to myself, maybe there's a way, when the laws provide for it, to tokenize the index, to let people have ownership of the index that owns those cards, so they too can enjoy, the value of those cards over time.
Without actually holding.
Yeah, well, we don't hold the cards anyways, but it's in a vault. You can't take that out of the vault. You know why? You can't let the signature fade. So the only time I ever look at my card is on my phone, like everybody else's collection. They all look at the phone.
So if somebody has $1,000, how would you tell them to invest it? At some point, you have to, have a certain amount of money before you get into alts. So let's just say $1,000 or $10,000.
If I had $10,000, I'd use beanstalks, and I'd just get a diverse portfolio of some crypto, some stocks and bonds that pay divs, and some T-bills. And then I just look at it on my phone every day. And it doesn't have to be beanstalks. Any app that, if you think you can pick stocks all day long, you can't. It's almost impossible. But an app could take 10,000 and index you to those asset classes that appreciate over time. But the key is, you need the discipline to put away every month something. I do the same thing. You have to force yourself to put something away every month for the future. Not only yours, but who's coming after you. Like, if you want to take care of the future, you got to invest.
Well, something that you have talked about that we disagree on is the coffee debate. You have said that people who spend $5 on a latte are stupid.
Yeah, I'm right.
I disagree.
Well, then you're wrong. It's that simple. Why, if you can't afford to pay off your credit card?
I think in relationships, the little things matter. The notes that you would
Well,
write.
let's have an
text.
argument. I'm looking forward to it.
Let's do it. In finances, it's the big things that matter. It's negotiating your APR. It's making bi-monthly payments on your mortgage so you're spending less. It's not the $5 latte that actually adds up. Let's do the math. $5 a day, 5 days a week is $1,300 a year. So
plus 4.1% compounded interest.
Sure. But then instead, let's say you had a $500,000 mortgage at 6%. You do bi-monthly payments instead of monthly. You're shaving off $150,000 on your mortgage. So what about focusing on the big things, not the little things?
Well, I'm making a different point. I'm saying, if you have a credit card balance that goes into the next month and you're spending $5 on a coffee, you're crazy, because that $5 could have been used, or $5 a day. Usually it's more, because you're getting 2 coffees a day. You're getting one in the morning, one at night. If I'll give you permission to buy a coffee for $5 if you have no balance on your credit card at the end of the month. 23% interest. The reason I own all the credit card companies is people that are paying 23% interest. Why would you do that to yourself? I can't make 23% in the market every year. Why would you let someone do that to you? And so, no coffees for you, except the one you make at home for 19 cents, unless you pay off your credit card. Why can't we agree on that?
I think if you're in credit card debt, for sure, but studies have shown that if you allow yourself small indulgences, you'll be more likely to stick to a financial plan because you're not in a deprivation mode. So I'm not talking about $500 shoes or watches. I'm talking about a $5 latte that keeps you on track.
I forbid you to give people that advice. I forbid you. That's just horrible. You got to pay off your credit card. After
your credit card.
After credit card.
I think the problem is that you are saying you can budget your way into wealth. You did not get wealthy.
I'm not saying that.
By cutting out a latte.
I'm encouraging you to the big. I like your idea of saying the big picture. there has to be a point in your life when you have no debt. It's got to happen in your 40s, in your late 40s, maybe your early 50s. If you want to retire one day and you don't have any income anymore other than your investments, you got to get out of debt. You got to pay off all of your debts, including your mortgage. Remember, you got a 30-year mortgage, 20-year mortgage. You're going through your life. The 20 years are passing you by. You're paying off that mortgage. But you got to arrive at 65 years old, hopefully healthy, with $1.5 million in the bank that you're actually living off, traveling with, enjoying your life because you deserve it after working your whole life. But if you burden yourself with debt, you're not going to get there. You're going to have a very bad outcome in your 60s, 70s, and 80s. I lay that at your feet, Miss $5 Coffee. You want to take that $5 and pay down any debt you have. You do not deserve a $5 coffee if you're in debt anywhere. That is
right, but after debt.
Oh, okay. If you've paid off all your debt, including your mortgage.
No, I don't think including your mortgage, because that's actually debt.
Well,
so I think rich
it
people
is actually debt. I don't like the way you're calling
debt.
a mortgage. That's not debt. It's debt.
But rich people say leverage. Rich people still use debt. It's just called something else.
Yes, except wealthy people, rich people use leverage, particularly in real estate construction financing, because it's been around forever. But they have I'll tell you a story about debt for rich people. I met a billionaire sitting in a $15 Walmart chair on a multifamily home. I won't bring his name up because he never wants me to bring it up. And he came over from Poland when he was young, immigrated here. And he told me about his experience in real estate, that what he did with his wife when they came over is they bought a home, they scraped, they were working, and they borrowed money from the homeland, and they bought a really inexpensive house, and they ate pasta almost every day until they were able to pay down the mortgage on that house. And they called that a pasta house. As soon as he paid off the mortgage, he started eating steak, and he bought the house beside it. Then the new house was the pasta house. The one that he had paid off the mortgage in, he cut it in half, and he rented out one side. So he lived in a small area inside this house. I think he actually went to the basement, and he rented the surface up, and he called that his steakhouse. But they started eating protein. So he went from pasta house to steakhouse, and then he got the next house, and then he borrowed money on that. And after he paid all that off, it became a steakhouse. And over time, he did that till he was a billionaire, because the asset value of the land and the houses went up over 30 years. All he did was run around the neighborhood buying houses and eating pasta when he had debt, and eating steak when he had no debt. That's a good analogy, I think. So if you're going to use debt, you got to pay it off. You have to have the philosophy of paying it off.
Yeah, not all debt is created equal. Mortgage debt and credit card debt are different.
What about student debt? How do you feel about that? Miss $5 Coffee?
Rank it by highest interest rates. You can't cut off every small indulgence that makes you happy in this life and expect people to stick to a financial plan that's sustainable. Here's my problem.
Wait. Let's stop right there. Why does wasting money, why should that make you happy? Shame on you. Why?
It's not about the coffee. If you don't like coffee, it's something else. It's a small indulgence.
Why do you have to waste money at all?
It's not about wasting money. It's about buying things that make you happy in life. What else are you doing with your money?
Well, maybe you're an addicted person that has to spend money to be happy. Let's discuss that.
I'm not an addicted person, but I think in every sustainable, let's talk about crash diet, they never last because you cut out every
I agree
enjoyable
with that,
thing.
But
and
I'm just trying to say the mindset is, your mindset, your entire adult life is to pay off all debt. So you arrive in a place where you got the $1.5 million in the bank and you have no debt. That is how you're going to be a happy camper.
Well, I think every millionaire and billionaire did not get rich by skipping
No,
coffee.
that's different. But you're saying, you're trying to compare what an entrepreneur does who takes immense risk.
Right, by building businesses. By
yes, but that's
estate.
not
That's
easy.
That's how you build wealth. You can't budget your way to wealth.
You can budget your way to becoming a millionaire at $1.5 million by simply keeping 15 to 20%.
By not buying the coffee?
Yeah, you can't buy the coffee. Sorry.
But you're building wealth through building businesses.
You're fixated on coffee. I'm just saying, why waste money? If something costs 19 cents and you're paying $5 for it, Why?
Listen, I grew up in an immigrant family. I pick up every single penny I see because I was always told that if you don't pick up a penny, you're not worth a penny. So I get it.
I always pick up a penny too. I do the same thing. If I see it on the ground, I stop, I pick it up. Because if you don't, bad karma.
Well, now we can agree on something.
There you have it. I'm glad we did the whole circle on that one.
You've said that there won't be any cuts this year for interest rates.
Well, I would say 16th is right around the corner. That's when the Fed makes its next decision. I'm thinking 25 basis points, maybe, but maybe not. We have a lot of data between now and then. What I'm concerned about, you saw the Lululemon report, if we're getting into stocks again, but they missed their numbers huge, tariffs. So they're going to have to push prices. They're going to have to raise prices. And so a lot of companies have been holding back, waiting to see where tariffs settle out because the policy's been very unstable. It's all over the place, Japan is at 39, then it's at 10, all over the place. And we have to wait to see where it ends up. If it ends up being around 10% reciprocal, I think everything's going to be fine. Somebody's going to be paying more. That's very inflationary, and it will be. But I don't think the Fed should be bullied by any administration into cutting rates just because the sitting president wants them cut. They all want them cut. I mean, it's just sport to bash the Fed. Every president does it. And so, it's not unusual, but this Fed knows his mandate's over in May. And as I've learned over the years with all different Feds, they don't give a poo-poo what the president thinks. They don't care. That's not their mandate. Their mandate is to be independent. The whole world likes it that way. They make decisions based on what they think is right for the economy. And their dual mandate is employment and, of course, inflation at 2%, which we are a long way from right now. So if you're getting excited about rate cuts, I wouldn't.
I say 25 basis points next.
Yeah, I would think you might be right on that, but that will be the last one this year and maybe for a long time. It depends what happens in the back end of the year on inflation. Does it show up anywhere? And let's wait and see the next CPI report.
Well, I worry about this idea of glamorizing low interest rates because we remember 2008, interest rates were on the floor because the economy was in the pooper.
That was a really bad outcome. Very bad.
Apocalyptic.
I mean, remember how many people got wiped out in real estate because of leverage in 2008? That was bad.
That's rich people debt.
Everybody did. There was lots of poor people got wiped out because their mortgages, it was bad. It was a very bad outcome.
Okay, well, if you were the Treasury Secretary right now or if you were Powell, what would you do just for one day?
I'd hold rates steady. I wouldn't do anything. Economy is doing very, very well. Employment's near full employment, except California, they're screwed up. They have 5% unemployment here, but it's a mismanaged war zone state. There's nothing you can do about this place until you change leadership at the municipal level and at the state level. It's a mess.
Do you miss Elon in Washington?
I'm a big Elon fan. The guy has great executional skills and he's done so much and still is. But I'm talking about, the overall U.S. economy is in pretty good shape, and we just had a new high in the S&P 2 days ago. So
we do hit highs every 20 or so days.
Yeah, but you would think with all of the turmoil around the world and all of the concern we have about, tariffs and everything else, I think the economy is looking at about 24 months saying they like what they see. And I think a lot of it has to do with the productivity of AI in every sector.
So you're bullish.
I am. In fact, my real estate strategy has moved to data centers. That's what I'm building now in real estate. I've gone from climate control storage, multifamily, luxury condo into doing data centers, which is very complex but interesting. And I am bullish. I have a pretty large portfolio of almost 53 companies now in almost 11 sectors, private. We're doing very well. Good sell-through. We're going into holiday now. I mean, it's going to be interesting. We'll see. So I'm an optimist. I never bet against America. It's stupid to do that. Look at the history. I mean, our number one export is not technology or energy. It's the American dream. This is the number one entrepreneurial economy on earth, and it has been forever. And it will continue to be because of the nature of democracy combined with the American entrepreneur, the American dream. That's why people come here. That's why you're here. That's why I'm here. And that's why it happens. And so I look at it and say to myself, for those of you that are entrepreneurs, and that's about a third of the population, give it a shot. Like, start your company when you're young because you can, time-wise, you can afford it. But the older you get and the more obligations and responsibilities you have, the harder it is. So if you've got 2 kids, a mortgage, and you're both working and you decide you want to quit your job and start a business, you can do it, but it's a lot harder.
You've seen thousands, maybe more, pitches. What makes a good pitch?
You know, a good pitch is an entrepreneur that, first of all, can take the heat, which is not easy, but that understands whatever they're thinking is going to happen, it won't go that way. They have to be able to pivot, and they have to express to you. And there's two things I ask for now, just to make it short and sweet. You got to know your CAC, customer acquisition cost, and your ROAS, return on ad spend. If you don't even know what those mean, no chance I will invest in you. And I also want to hear that you're using the inexpensive AI tools that are available now that your competitors using. We use a lot of AI in our businesses now, particularly to generate social media content. It's cut our costs dramatically. So those are the things I'm looking for. And I will also never invest in a hot sauce. If I see another hot sauce deal, my head's going to explode.
Our Big CAC Energy sweatshirt. Before we go, can you sell me this pen?
Yeah, let me look at it. All right.
Good catch.
Oh, you obviously you don't understand something about this pen. This is a piece unique. How did you get this? This is a one of a kind. This is the only one in the world with this logo on it. You'd be out of your mind to even write with this. This should actually be in a case. This could be priceless. I don't know. I mean, if you don't buy it, you're crazy.
I mean, are they like watches? Should I hold one in both hands?
Yeah, you should be. If you can write ambidextrous, that would be amazing. But this is the legendary. I've never seen one. F39 BP. I've only heard about them. How did you even get this? And if you don't think it's valuable, can I just take it? Do you mind? This thing is...
Put it in your collectibles.
That is
your
fantastic.
Collectibles in the vault.
That is how you sell a watch.
Sold, Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely. Still a salesman. That's all I do. I'm just a sales guy. That's it.
You sell the sizzle for sure. We end our episodes by asking all of our guests for one final tip that listeners can take straight to the bank. Something that we didn't go over.
Yeah, well, I would say this to everybody that I've learned myself, and I wish I'd thought about this earlier in life. You should spend about 30% of your day doing something that is not in your comfort zone. Something that you're scared to do, or you're worried you're going to get embarrassed if you fail at it. Because, you know, we do a lot of things now about exercise or diet or all this stuff. But the number one muscle in your body is your brain, and you don't use it when you get into routine. And so I'm dyslexic, so I have a very hard time memorizing stuff. And that live TV, I don't have to memorize anything. But I got offered a role across from Timothée Chalamet last year in a movie called Marty Supreme coming out Christmas Day. And Gwyneth Paltrow's my wife, but the script was like a telephone book. And it really scared the shit out of me that I was going to have to memorize all that. Like, that's a lot to do. And Timmy told me, you got to memorize all of it, not just your lines, because when we start shooting this thing, you have to know we're going to be out of sequence because you've never made a movie and this is what's going to happen to you. The first day we shoot will be probably something at the end of the movie and you're going to say, what? We're not starting on page one? So you got to memorize the whole script and know where you are in time. And if you can't do that, you're going to fail. And I said, fuck it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure out how to do it. And I used all the tools that I could get my hands on to just help me, including all the software now that, you know, the other characters you can actually practice with them online. It's almost AI-like to learn where you are in the script and learn your lines, which I did. And I hope I'm successful. I'll let you judge and the critics. I'm very proud of the movie. I mean, I've never done this before, but that's 100% out of my comfort zone. But now I feel I could do that again. And so my whole point is it guitar for someone? Is it learning the violin? Is it painting? Is it photography? Is it, learning how to play tennis or whatever it is? Something you think you can't do. That's the advice I'm giving people because it really makes your life better, makes you more productive, and you feel more confident about everything. You thought you were going to hit a wall, you couldn't do it, and you did. That's my whole point.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'll buy you a latte.
Yeah, no, listen, go ahead, buy a $5 coffee when you're going into the movie theater.
That's Kevin approved?
Yeah, absolutely.
Money Rehab is a production of Money News Network. I'm your host, Nicole Lapin. Money Rehab's executive producer is Morgan Lavoie. Our researcher is Emily Holmes. Do you need some money rehab? And let's be honest, we all do. So email us your money questions, moneyrehab@moneynewsnetwork.com, to potentially have your questions answered on the show or even have a one-on-one intervention with me. And follow us on Instagram @moneynews and TikTok @moneynewsnetwork for exclusive video content. And lastly, thank you. No, seriously, thank you. Thank you for listening and for investing in yourself, which is the most important investment you can make.